Here is something nobody talks about. There is a moment, and a lot of men have been through this, where everything in your life looks great on paper, career solid, finances stable, experience on your side, and dating? Dating gets easier, more options, more confidence, less pressure. And yet, something feels off, not wrong exactly, just off. Like you walked into a room where everyone is acting like you belong there, and you are not sure you do. Here is what I want you to understand about that feeling. It is not confusion. It is a warning. Because the moment dating becomes easier for a man over 50 is the exact moment most men start making their worst decisions. Let me show you what this actually looks like. A man, mid-60s, 2 marriages, 40 years with a woman in his life, back to back, no gap. And then suddenly, alone, not broke, not bitter, not falling apart, just single. Maybe for the first time in his adult life. Now, here is what most people do not understand about that situation. When you have had a woman in your life for that long, it stops being a choice. It becomes a habit, and habits do not care about your personal growth. They just want to be fed. So he gets on the apps, tells himself he is just looking, and what he finds on the other side changes everything. A financially stable man in his mid-60s, decent shape, owns his home, income coming in, is basically a unicorn in the modern dating market. This man, who spent most of his life as a solid, unremarkable 5 or 6, just became a 10. Overnight. Without changing a single thing about himself, women are pursuing him. His ex-wife comes back into town and they reconnect. 2 other women are texting him simultaneously. He is getting more attention than he has had in a decade, and he does not know whether to be thrilled or terrified. He is both. And that is exactly the problem. That candy store feeling. Unlimited options after years of scarcity. It is intoxicating. But when you are that lit up, your rational brain goes quiet. And the part of you that just wants warmth, connection, someone in your corner, that part gets very, very loud. That is the moment most men make the mistake that costs them everything they just got back. Let us start with the ex-wife. Because this is the one that should have had alarm bells going off. She left him. That is not a small detail. That is the whole story. And now she is back in town. One thing leads to another. And suddenly he is thinking, maybe this means something. Maybe she has changed. Maybe the known baggage is better than the unknown. And I get the logic. You have already done the unpacking. You know her triggers. Starting over means dragging out all your own baggage too. Explaining yourself from scratch, learning a whole new set of landmines. That sounds exhausting, and it is. But here's the question you have to ask, and you have to ask it cold. She made a conscious decision to leave you. What exactly has she changed? Not what you have changed. What has she changed? Because if she is essentially the same person she was when she walked out, what you have is not a second chance. What you have is a lonely woman who realized life without a provider is harder than she expected. That is not a reunion. That is a transaction. And the last thing you want to be, after everything, is someone's safety net. Now, the dating app situation. He meets a woman, gets a hotel room, smart move. The date ends exactly where hotel room first dates tend to end. He comes home feeling like he rediscovered a part of himself he thought was gone. Then he does not call for 2 days. Not strategically. Just life, distraction, a little overwhelm. She blows up his phone. What is going on? Why haven't you called? I thought we had something. And just like that, without even trying, he learns the most important lesson in modern dating. Scarcity is attractive. Availability is not. But underneath that excitement, something else is running. That old addiction. That deeply wired need to have a woman occupying space in his life. And that addiction does not care about his growth. It just wants to be satisfied. So he is standing at a crossroads that a lot of men in their 50s and 60s find themselves at. More options than they have ever had, less clarity than they have ever needed, and a pull toward the familiar that is strong enough to undo everything. Here is where most conversations about this stop. They tell you what not to do. They warn you about red flags. They say, be careful out there. And then they leave you with nothing. No structure, no framework, just warnings. That is not useful. So here is what actually works. Before you swipe, before you meet, before any of it, 2 lists. The first, every characteristic you are genuinely looking for, not the fantasy version, the real version. What does she actually need to bring to your life to make it better? The second, your non-negotiables, the ones where no matter how good the chemistry feels, you walk away. Done. Next. Most men never make these lists. That's exactly why they end up in the same relationship with a different face. Second, set a timeline and hold it. Give yourself at least 2 years before you think about serious commitment. Pick a date, make it concrete. Before that date, no engagement, no cohabitation, no legally binding anything. Just dating. Just watching who she actually is when the honeymoon phase wears off. Third, no sex for at least 3 months. I know. Hear me out. The minute intimacy enters, your brain chemistry shifts. The rose-colored glasses go on, and suddenly the red flags you would have spotted from a mile away start looking manageable. By holding off, you take that weapon off the table. She has to show up as herself. No performance, no strategy, just, who is this woman actually? That is the information you need, and you cannot get it when you are already emotionally bonded through intimacy. Fourth, keep your finances completely separate. If she needs your money to stay afloat, you can never really trust that she is there for you. You become a resource, not a partner. Now, here is the layer most men never admit out loud. The real reason they rush back into relationships has nothing to do with the women at all. It is not about the apps, not about the ex-wife, not about the hotel room. The real issue is that being alone, truly alone, with nothing and no one to organize your life around, is terrifying. If you have been in a relationship for 20, 30, 40 years, there has always been another voice in your head. Not always welcome, not always kind, but a voice. Something external to plan around, to respond to consider. When that voice disappears, when it is just you, a lot of men quietly panic. Not dramatically, not in a way they would ever admit, but they start filling that silence as fast as they can. Because silence means you have to figure out what you actually want, not what she needs, not what the relationship requires. What do you want? And for a lot of men, that question is harder than it sounds. So instead of sitting with it, they find a new woman to do things for. Because at least then they have direction. That is not connection. That is avoidance wearing a romantic costume. And here is what happens when you go down that road. You give up your autonomy, not all at once, gradually. A small compromise here, a preference surrendered there. And before you know it, you are not living your life anymore. You are living a version of your life that has been edited for someone else's comfort. The moment you stop being autonomous, you stop being attractive. The moment you stop being attractive, the relationship starts dying. And you are right back where you started. Except now you have a new lease and a shared bathroom. So what is the actual alternative? It is not isolation. It is not swearing off women forever. It is learning, really learning, to occupy your own life so fully that a woman becomes an addition. Not a replacement. She comes along with you on your path. She does not redirect it. That means separate homes. I know that sounds extreme, but cohabitation slowly kills the mystery that makes attraction sustainable. When she has her place and you have yours, the dates mean something. The sleepovers mean something. You are choosing each other every time, not defaulting to proximity because it is easier. It means no legal entanglement until you have years, not months, of actual data on who this person is. It means keeping your finances, your family, and your sense of self completely intact throughout. The man I have been describing has been out of a 40-year relationship for 2 years. He has not had enough time alone to know what his authentic self sounds like yet. And that is the real work. Not the dating, not the apps, not figuring out which woman to choose. The work is learning to be comfortable in that silence, learning to hear your own voice and trust it. And then, only then, letting someone in on your terms. The second marriage divorce rate is higher than the first. That is not a coincidence. That is what happens when men jump back in before they have done the work. You have already paid that tuition once. The freedom you have right now, guard it like your life depends on it. Because dating does not get dangerous when it is hard. It gets dangerous when it is easy and you stop paying attention.